Good afternoon. Sorry for that technical difficulty. I just wanted to make sure that we were recording today. I'm Laura Zervos. I'm a registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist, and I'm so excited to be here today to present some of the nutrition content for Lending Hearts. I'd like to try to show you seasonal recipes, recipes that are good for our body, recipes that are anti-inflammatory and that nourish us and that are also economical, simple to prepare, great for weeknights, good for special occasions. So a little bit of everything, but always try and give you something that I could demonstrate here today. The recipes are on the website, and that's especially true today. There's a couple different versions of some things that we're going to do today, and I'm really excited to get started. I'm going to start just going to adjust the camera while I talk so I could show you the first thing that we're doing. So here one of our salads is a raspberry salad. Today is about celebrating spring and it's simple, elegant meals, for any occasion. So I don't know about you, but for me, this is just a half cup of raspberries and about a half teaspoon of sugar. And we're just going to put this on here. And I just want to let them sit. So I thought we would do that really quickly because they need a little bit of time. So it's about celebrating elegant meals for any occasion. So we have a few classics tonight. We're going to do a roast chicken, which is one of my absolutely favorite meals. It is so comforting. It's nourishing. It's healthy. It's high in protein. I think everybody likes it. It's open to so many sides, right? You could do red skin potatoes, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, baked potatoes, rice. So many things, most vegetables go with it. So it's just such a great anchor to have at any meal. And it's something that I like to do when I'm entertaining because it's something that I can prepare ahead of time, stick it in the oven, move on with other things. So that's important to me. So I could spend time with my family or with my guests when I'm entertaining and not in the kitchen. So those things I'd like to do. And I typically have two recipes, and let's get that chicken started, by the way, because that has to get in the oven. I've preheated the oven to 400 degrees. Again, two ways that I do this. The first recipe is on the website. It's called My Favorite Roast Chicken. And what I like to do for that, if I have more time and I know I'm going to be around, what I like to do is take the chicken and I cut it in half with a cleaver and I season it similar to the way that I'm going to season it now. And from there, I will put it in a plastic bag that I could seal and let that marinate overnight. Both of those halves, lay both halves on the sheet pan and bake it similar to how we're going to do that today. But today I want to show you something that I do all the time on busy weeknights when I get home from work. And this comes together very quickly. I just want to move the cutting board so I don't get any of the chicken near there. So I have an oven that I have heated up to 400 degrees. I have a whole chicken. And the other reason I wanted to show you about a whole chicken today is because sometimes people are intimidated to handle the whole chicken and cutting it in half. That would have been a nice demonstration. Maybe we'll do that next time. But I wanted to show you that because right now, sometimes it's more economical to buy the whole chicken than versus obviously the more times it's been processed and hands have been touching it, the more expensive, the more cost is involved, right? So of course, the whole chicken is going to be more cost effective or bottom line dollar cost. Is probably cheaper than when you go with a breast that has been you'll see there's the whole breast, and then they'll have the breast with the skin removed, and then you'll see the tenders, then you'll see the thin slices. As it goes on and on and on, it's getting more, we're adding more cost to it. Same with thighs. A whole thigh, when you have that whole, the leg rather, where the leg and the thigh are attached, more reasonable than buying a boneless thigh because there's just more work involved. So right now, prices of food, as we all know, is very high. So we want to make sure that we watch our food dollars. This is something that I think fits that bill, and you would never know that, oh, wow, well, that was a really inexpensive meal. It was a reasonable meal. And we just know that it's delicious. So let me just adjust the camera so you can see the chicken here and what we're doing. I have a whole chicken. This is a whole nice organic chicken. And I want to say this was a little under 3 pounds. And what's nice about when you have the whole chicken, this is the giblet. Okay, so that it's usually inside the cavity, and it has the liver, the heart, the kidney, everything in there. That would make a beautiful gravy. That would make a beautiful stuffing. We're going to set that aside in the refrigerator for later use, because we're not doing anything with that today. And I just put that back in there. So I've already rinsed this out. I'm going to set it in our pan, just like this. And I'm going to put this one I get a lot, like which side should I put up? You always want to put the breast side up. So let me show you the difference. So you'll know you're correct. Our legs are right here, and I'll show you what we're going to do with our legs in a little bit. But this part is down, all this bony, the bony process and all of this hard tail, all of that and the wingtips. I don't trim those off. I typically leave them on. So again, I will do this. I get home from work, got a nice hot oven. It's already defrosted, so we've got everything going in our favor here. Rinse off my hands so we can get started. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some olive oil and just drizzle that all over real nicely. And make sure that it's well coated. Then you could take, when I'm doing the one that I was just talking about in the plastic bag that I marinate overnight, I use whole garlic. When I do this one, I use garlic, granulated garlic. And then I also use some kosher salt. And we want to get a nice coating on there. You could use whatever herbs you like. And I forgot my pepper. You use whatever herbs you like. I like kosher salt, pepper, garlic. And I love oregano on here, and I like to be generous with this. I like to get this, the secret is to get this well coated with your herbs. It makes a nice little crust, and that's why I was generous with the oil too. Because I'm not going to season it again after this. Okay, so let's make sure we got it everywhere. And that smells delicious. And this is ready for the oven. We're good to go. So we have a nice hot oven. This should take a little less than an hour, but let me get it on. It's under 3 pounds. I'm thinking we might get it done before class is over. We'll check that temperature. Remember, we want that to be an internal temperature of 160. Let me just wipe off the counter here where we worked. And it's best to take the internal temperature, and sometimes it varies. I've also, you saw that pan was pretty small, and sometimes I'll put a larger chicken in there, maybe 5 pounds. It might be closer to an hour and a half. I also like we said, when I cut it in half, that really cuts the cooking time down to, I would say, just a little over an hour. And I like that method because it gets it nice and crispy. This will get nice and crispy too, but sometimes it will just stays a little bit. This is juicy. I would say the other one just has it's nice for serving. If I'm taking that somewhere, I will use that one. I will make a nice platter and I will put several halves of the chicken on it. And it just makes it easier to serve it that way. But when I'm doing it for my family, just on a random weeknight, we like to do it this way. And like I said, put it in, forget it. I could do some other chores, set the table, make some other sides, take care of some things around the house while it's baking. And next thing you know, dinner's ready. So let's move on. We're going to do again, and I think this would be a nice meal for Mother's Day. It'd be a nice meal for entertaining any of your special occasions that you have coming up in May. Even though it's in the oven, it doesn't take that long. We're also going to do a roast asparagus with this. And I have a nice bunch of roast asparagus. Asparagus is a spring vegetable, and that's why I'm using it today. Because we know when we use the vegetables in season, of course, they're more cost effective. And again, watching those food dollars. So I cut most of them and washed them already. So they're right here. But I just wanted to show you how you um, prepare these. I'm just going to adjust my camera. And I do actually have some right now in my garden that's coming up. I have some that's pretty mature. It's around this thicker size. So what you're going to do is this bottom part, you could see here, it's almost very fibrous, really difficult to digest. You probably won't digest it. So it's probably best to cut that off. So you could feel with your knife, like this is very hard. And then once you get about right where this color starts to change, you could see how nice it is. But down here, if I were to cut this here, which is requiring a lot of pressure, you could see how the difference is. You could see the difference in color there. So we'll just take off that. And it should go through nice and easy. If it didn't go through nice and easy, you may need to cut just a little bit more off. So I just wanted to show you, you don't want to waste it, obviously. So what we're going to do is we have our asparagus and we're just going to take a little bit of olive oil. And I have already washed this and I had it sitting in a colander before class started so it would get nice and dry. So it's not wet at all. And so that should make it so it's nice and crispy when it comes out. We don't want it to be soggy. We don't want it to steam in there. We want it to get nice and roasted. So I've got that nice hot oven. So let's get our pan. And I like to just arrange it on the pan just evenly. You want to be careful that it's not overlapping. So that's why I use such a large pan today. Typically, I use a little bit smaller one. But you want to make sure that they all have enough room, that they're all getting that same. You don't, like, for example, if we had a small one, you wouldn't want to put it like this. They're not going to get, we want to get them nice and evenly browned. So they're nice and uniform. They have the right amount of oil. They're nice and dry. We got our nice little bit of kosher salt on there. And we're going to do today, what is special about this asparagus dish is today for the holiday, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a hollandaise to it. And so that will take it up a level. Sometimes we just do the kosher salt and pepper, but for our special occasions, we'll go ahead and just elevate that a little bit. I'm just putting a little bit of cracked black pepper on here, not too much. And this typically roasts about 10 minutes in a convection oven. So I like to use convection if that's available to you. That's great. So I'm just going to set the timer on so we don't forget. If you have an air fryer, that will work well in an air fryer. Again, the same principles apply. Make sure it's nice and dry. Go ahead and put your oil on it, season it like you want. Follow the directions on your air fryer. We should have an air fryer class. But anyhow, it will work well in there too. But even if you don't have convection available to you and you don't have an air fryer, I would just recommend putting your oven on probably 450, get it nice and hot and put the vegetables in like that. They should be fine. So even if that's not available, it'll still work. It might not get as brown as you like. That's the beauty of convection because in the convection oven, at the very back of the oven, there's a fan. That's the only difference between conventional and convection. At the back of the oven, there's a fan that blows. So if this is the back of my oven, it's blowing the air around the food. So the food's going to get nice and brown, which is important. So we do have to turn our pan around to get it evenly brown. Convection is good when we're roasting our chicken. Convection is good for roasting anything that you want to brown or bake rather too. Baking or roasting, I should say. But the other thing is that if you're doing cookies or bread, convection, not a great idea because it's going to brown it too much on one side and it's going to brown it too quickly. So I wouldn't recommend it for when you're doing your baking. But for just other things like I mentioned, even casseroles like a lasagna or something that, especially if you have it covered in the beginning, convection can reduce the cooking time for you significantly. So I highly recommend if you do have it to try and play around with those settings. Let's get our next one. So, like we said with our roast, so it's meant to be a meal today. Sometimes our things go together, sometimes there's a theme involved. Today it is this special meal. I was going to do fingerling potatoes, and my store did not have fingerling. So we are stuck with these little red and white small potatoes, which are still lovely. Again, wash them before class. They are nice and dry. We're going to roast these as well. And when these come out, we're going to finish them with a nice little lemon and olive oil and parsley. But what's different about these is we're going to roast them with a little garlic just to take that up a little bit. So we have a small amount. I'd probably do 2 cloves of garlic. And we do know that garlic is a nice anti-inflammatory, a lot of compounds. Right. I also have a little tool that I should show you that gets the skin off of this really quick. We'll do another one. Sometimes giving it a good swat lets it just come right off. Maybe I just didn't hit it hard enough. Okay, so again, we think that, meals for special occasions, like, they need to be complicated, and they actually don't, right? This is the more simple, the better. And it's just a great example how a few thoughtful choices will will really elevate this meal. And we're just going to give it that rough chop. And I wanted to also talk about the chicken. We don't want to overcomplicate it. Those simple seasonings are just going to be plenty. You don't, we could, if it was a larger chicken, I may consider stuffing the cavity, but I think it'll be fine just the way it is. So we have our potatoes here, and we have our garlic. Just add a little bit of olive oil. Which you notice olive oil seems to be in most of our recipes today, of course. And let's add a little kosher salt. Some fresh cracked pepper. Give it a nice stir. And don't underestimate, again, while I was just saying, don't overcomplicate it with herbs. With too many things, we want to let that shine come through. You do have to do something, putting the olive oil and the salt and the pepper, don't think, why do I need to use cracked pepper? It really makes a difference. And all this garlic, it's going to make a difference and take this up a notch. Again, with the size of these potatoes, I just left them whole. When I do fingerlings, it depends on the size. Sometimes I'll cut them in half because they are so beautiful. Just depends what you're doing. But these are nice because they crisp up so nicely. Get these in the oven. I hear my asparagus sizzling. It looks beautiful. The thing about the asparagus too is that when we don't put too much water in it, and when we have the right amount of oil and it's been dried and everything is good, it's going to be very nice and bright green. So that's important too. You don't want to come to the table and it's a nice gray asparagus. So you hear different techniques of trying to keep it green. The best technique is to not overcook it, to remove most of the water. Even if we were going to steam this in boiling water, I would say remove it quickly, maybe shock it with some ice water. Some people try to add baking soda. to bring out the brightness. It can bring out the brightness, but it will also leave you with a very mushy product. So what's more important? We want all of them, right? We want a good texture and we also want that good color. So important to just cook it to the right amount of time and remove it and take care of it from then. You don't want to take it out of the oven and leave it covered on something and it will it depends what it is. It could still overcook. That carryover cooking could make it a little overdone and mushy. So let's move on to our next thing. We could almost two things we're going to do. We're going to be making our hollandaise and we need some melted butter for that. So you see behind me, I have some piece of butter here. I'm going to go ahead and put this on low and just let it melt while we're talking. And you just can't, well, that's a whole conversation too. We don't want to just use melted butter. We want to use clarified butter. And what is clarified butter? It is when we heat it here and it begins to separate, the solids begin to separate. We're going to separate that off of there and just use that good fat. And that's going to give us a shiny product. It's going to give us a product with really good viscosity. Sometimes it tastes a little less salty. It's just the right consistency. Whenever you're making a sauce, whenever you're making a bechamel or a hollandaise or anything, any sauces, even when I'm doing other things that just call for melted butter, just skimming those solids off could really make a big improvement in the quality of that sauce and texture. So we'll get that started and let's look at our raspberries now. We just, before class, we just have a simple arugula salad that I threw together and it's just a berry salad because we're going to make a nice berry vinaigrette. And this is just arugula, red raspberries, onions, and some black olives. And I think it's nice to have some of these. Sometimes these things don't sound like they're going to go together, but they really do. And, you have the sweetness of the berries contrasting with the saltiness of the olives, the bitterness of the arugula. It just makes we got peppery, sweet, we've got acidic. It's a nice, light salad and just keep everything nice and balanced here. So we're going to make our vinaigrette. So let me get our berries because they've been sitting for long enough. And there's a couple of ways you could approach this. You can, we could make this in a blender or a food processor, or we could just stir it. So you could also beforehand, you could make a simple syrup and boil the berries and take out and then drain some of that heavy juice off of there and you're just left with the pulp. You could make the dressing that way. We just put the sugar on our berries. They'll get nice and soft. We'll mash them up and we're just going to whisk them into our dressing. So let's do that next. So let me show you that. And let's get that, clean our space here. And in our dressing, we have apple cider vinegar. I'm sorry, red wine vinegar. Looking at it, it's bright red. I have used in the past, I'll do a raspberry vinegar or balsamic. It could be a balsamic raspberry too. Let me just go check our asparagus. And let's just take a peek. I just want to show you how nicely it's coming along. It is starting to brown. And we're just going to give it a little stir, turn it over. And we just want to cook them till they're al dente also. So they're just a little bit firm to the bite. And the best way to do that is to just pierce them with a fork. So let's do that. And my fork is not going through there too well. Almost, I would say another 2 minutes. There's still a lot of crunch in there. So let's get those back in. Okay, so that's going, our butter's melting, our butter's just about melted, so I don't want to let that burn. So anyhow, I was saying about vinegars, you could use apple cider, you could also use balsamic. I just thought balsamic might be a little bit sweet with everything else. If we were using balsamic, I would definitely not use the honey in here. Honey helps give it a little bit of thick. So does the balsamic. It adds to the viscosity a little bit. So let's see if we should skim our butter or we should. I think we'll just turn it off for right now while we do this. Okay, so let me get a fork and we're just gonna, let me adjust this. We're just gonna mash these up. And I tasted these before class. They were nice and very nice and sweet. So I recommend you trying them too before you make it because maybe you don't want to add um, a lot of honey. I did cut back on the sugar that I typically add. You don't know this time of year. Sometimes it's nice. They just mashed up with a little bit of sugar on them, got them nice and soft. There we go. And this is really the same thing that we would end up if we had boiled them. Something like this, of course, there'd be more liquid to get out. But I don't think we always need to get that addition of the heavy syrup. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have our vinegar. And we're going to, I didn't measure out the honey just because sometimes I feel like I waste more honey on the spoon than I actually do. Just about a teaspoon. And we're going to whisk that together. And I like to use basil. I think basil goes really well with the raspberries. Oh my gosh, it smells amazing. Okay. And excuse my jar. This is my basil from home that I like to dry. And just whisk that together. Then we're going to whisk our oil in. Also, I had mentioned some alternate recipes. I'm also going to put another recipe on there. I just thought it might have been too heavy for this salad. Um, oh, that looks so good. I also do, so this one is more of a vinaigrette. I also do a creamy one that's very similar to the hollandaise that we're doing today. It is, it'll be on the website, but it's 3 egg yolks, similar to how we're going to do them today, drizzling the oil into either a food processor or a blender like this, a whole pint of raspberries that have been washed, and I believe it's a 1/4 cup of sugar. That is, and it comes out so creamy and delicious. It's really nice, but I just think it would have been a little too heavy for the arugula. I'm just going to set that aside. And also, one more thing that I'm putting on our salad. Let me turn off our timer here. One more thing that I'm putting on our salad is walnuts, because I always talk about walnuts have, they're the only nut that have the omega-3, significant amount of the omega-3 fatty acids. So I'm just going to put this in my hand and show you. This is 1/2 ounce. So a serving size is 1 ounce. This is about a tablespoon or 1/2 ounce. So I measured them out. So sometimes people think, oh, this is a serving of nuts and they've got a whole handful there. But I thought this would be a nice addition to our salad. Get my knife over here. Just chop these up real easy. We don't want them to be too small. And I think too, when you're serving nuts on a salad, it's always, obviously you should tell people, but they should be visible. So in case uh, you know, so somebody could see that they're there, and they have to be big enough so people could see them and small enough so that nobody's going to be chipping it too. We have those here. And then we'll just do our dressing on top of that here at the end. I'll just set that aside. I think my asparagus is done, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. So let me just go get the asparagus. And the asparagus looks fantastic, and this is exactly how we want to look. Let me set it down here. I'm going to just move the potatoes to the other rack in the oven. And they smell delicious with that little addition of garlic. Sorry, just move that so you could see what I'm doing here. So that's our asparagus, and you can see it's not super limp. Let me just see if I could demonstrate how with a fork. Yeah, you can't hear it, just perfectly. You could see how they're nice and round. Okay, let's just put them on there. Little backwards here with my hand. And I think roasting vegetables, I think it's, when we talk about maybe our children not liking vegetables, I think roasting them, sometimes it's because of the way they had them prepared. I have a lot of clients that, I'm sorry, can't hold the platter and scoop these up at the same time. I have a lot of clients that they might not like something, older clients, because the way they were prepared when they were younger, maybe the meat was overcooked, the vegetables were overcooked, or there was some type of ingredient, but a lot of times, or maybe it was all maybe all they were exposed to was a canned vegetable, and they never really had the chance to taste the true roasted vegetable, which, it really, it's just a great way to have them because the flavor profile is just elevated and makes it really nice. I'm just going to move the pan here. And our potatoes are doing well. We'll just let those stay in there. So there's our asparagus. Again, we could stop here. It's beautiful. I'd probably, and I think I'm going to do some now. Just going to put a little bit of lemon on that. Let me get another one here. A little bit of lemon on our potatoes too. There we go. We'll just set these aside. Again, I wouldn't cover it too tightly right now. It depends. If you try to time these, so if you are entertaining that it's ready right now, if it is going to be held over, maybe cover it just very loosely with foil. Sometimes I just put a piece of foil on top. I don't even clamp it down because it's just going to keep getting steamed and softer. Definitely would not use a plastic wrap on it. That'll definitely keep the heat in there and keep it cooking. So I would just put a loose piece of foil on it. And otherwise too, if I was trying to hold it, I would probably put that loose foil on it. Then when it was time to serve it, probably put it into the a nice warm oven uncovered for just a little bit of time. But this will be perfect. So let's just set this over here. And let's move on to our hollandaise. Now, again, so everything has two recipes today, at least. Our roast chicken has, there's an alternate recipe for that on the website. Same with the hollandaise. On the hollandaise is the classic recipe. Probably a little bit harder to demonstrate because there's a lot of whisking involved, and it should be really done at the stove where it's nice and warm. So we're going to do ours in a blender. A lot of people don't make hollandaise because they might feel that they don't have the cooking skills to whisk for that long or to do it on the stove like that, which is really fun though. It's a really fun thing and everybody should try doing it at least once. It's definitely worth it. But today, I think you'll appreciate this hollandaise as well. We're going to use our blender and basically I'm making emulsification. So when we take that, we're going to put we always need that binder, and the binder is going to be the egg yolks. So we could get those started too. But we'll have those egg yolks, and then we just can't dump the fat in there. We have to make that emulsification, and that is usually with some type of mechanical force, either whisking or using our blender. And that was like the same with the raspberry dressing, two ways to make that one too. When you make that emulsification, you need that egg yolk. And sometimes people don't like to have that egg yolk in their salad dressing, so I don't always do that one. But anyhow, we're going to emulsify that egg, and by doing that, we're denaturing that protein, and we're going to let that, if we do it too fast if we do it too fast, or the butter's not warm enough, it'll what's called break, and we don't want to do that. So we're just going to add a steady stream of butter in, and you also have the addition of an acid, and we're going to use lemon juice. We always, classic hollandaise is always going to have a splash of hot sauce in, and we're also going to add just a little tiny bit of Dijon mustard as well. So this is the classic ingredients, but the alternative, I would say, quick way to make it. So while our butter is over there, I will just do the egg yolks. Couple ways to do egg yolks. Let me just adjust my camera. And let me also just open those potatoes real quick just to make sure that they're okay. I'm just going to try one of these just to make sure they're done as well. Oh, they're perfect. A couple of them are a little bit hard, so let's just stick those back in there. Maybe another 4 minutes. And I'm also going to check on this chicken. And our chicken's coming along very nicely. Okay, so again, a couple way to do these egg yolks. You see a lot of times people will they'll take them and they will do the method where you will just kind of go back and forth. That's one way to do them. You want to make sure you just get the egg yolk, and you want a clean egg yolk. And right there, I don't exactly have a nice clean egg yolk, but we're going to use it. So you could see, even just by doing it very carefully, actually, we're going to set this one aside. I'll use it for something else. A good way, show you a good way, is give it a nice crack, let it come in here, and then give it a nice crack. Do that, and let me get one more egg because we need 3 eggs. And this is important when you're making anything with egg yolks, like a hollandaise or a chiffon cake, or you want clean egg whites. Maybe you're making an angel food cake. So here we have our nice egg yolks, right? And we're just going to get them out with our hands. And you just keep it nice and whole here, and you get all of that out. And look, we're left with nothing but the egg yolk. So there's no back and forth. Just get that all out of there. And just let it just slide between your hands, and you're left with nothing but the egg yolk. That little white thing it's called the chelze, C-H-E-L, I think Z-A-E. That is just what connected egg in there. So we'll try to get that off here. We'll get as much as the white off as we can. This is what I'm talking about, that sometimes you can get that off. And there we go. So we got that last bit. So 3 very nice egg yolks, nothing but yolk, and 3 nice whites. So it's very important that we just have the yolks. So I always recommend doing them that way. All right, so now we've got our egg yolks. So it's again, it's all in the prep, right? If you're painting a room or an area and we have wallpaper on it and we didn't get all the wallpaper off it, that prep, making sure that that wall is perfectly ready to grab the paint and everything is so important. Otherwise, if you paint over something and underneath, it's just going to bubble up and start peeling and do all kinds of things. Same with, it's all in the prep work, no matter what you're doing. So this one, the prep work is having good, clean ingredients, having those good, clean egg yolks, having a nice clarified butter, fresh lemon juice, having all the ingredients just be exactly the way they're supposed to be. It's going to turn out great. So let's get to our butter. And it's actually, butter is going to vary from brand to brand. Some butters, when you go to do this method, you're going to be left with a lot of solids. Just There is a standard of identity of how much solids are in there. It's just going to vary. So it's really important that you don't assume, if you're using this type of butter and then you realize, well, there really wasn't a whole lot to skim off. Don't assume that all butter is going to be like that. This is actually pretty good here. So let's keep it going. Good. A little bit longer. We'll get those. What's going to happen as we heat it is the solids are going to separate from the fat. So we're just going to skim those off of there. We do need a half cup of butter. So we'll just try to get that off of there. Excuse me. Oh, right. And it is nice and hot. Okay. We're just going to skim the solids off and discard them. We just want the good stuff here. Just gonna skim. A little bit easier said than done. Not this coming off as nice as I would like. Okay. Okay. I think we might have to heat up a little bit more. Tried to make sure we did more than a half cup of solid butter, so we would end up with a half cup, but I think we're still a little short. Check this. Oh yeah, we need more for sure. So let's get some more butter in there. Have some here. Just cut that open and I hear my potatoes. So let's get a little bit more here. And I like to just use a small little ladle to get that off. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that back on. And we're also gonna check on our chicken. So let me get out the potatoes. Check them for doneness. And they're very nice and soft. So let's go ahead and just take these and put them in a bowl. Now butter. And over here. And again, we're just going to hit these. So they're just nice and evenly brown. They're not overdone. They're not burnt. Our butter. These. I could have done this on the pan too. We just have some little pieces of garlic. We'll just get a little fresh lemon juice on them. And then a little fresh parsley. Makes everything look better, right? Parsley. Okay. So there's our potatoes. And too, I don't know if you noticed, we always talk about while we're waiting for our butter to melt. We always talk about the essentials of good meal planning too. So we want to remember that, having varied, having the change in texture, flavor, shape. So we have the spears, we have the redskins, they're a nice little ball. We would want to have, maybe whole mushrooms and redskin potatoes and meatballs, right? We have all these like little circles on our plate. So it's nice to have a variety. So we've got some green, we've got some red, we've got some things that are crunchy. We have our salad, we have a little bit of sweet, we have a little bit of everything going on. So that's what makes things interesting. And that's what we want to achieve. All right. I guess I'll let my butter just go a little bit faster there. And let's see here. We took the potatoes out. Let's look at the chicken. Let's bring the chicken out for a minute while our butter's going. And it's coming along really nicely. If I can, oh my gosh, it smells amazing. And I'm going to get a different ladle here, and I'm just going to lift this up a little bit and baste this. Don't be nervous about this. This is just the herbs on here, just getting that nice crust. It's exactly what we want. So I like to baste it a little bit there. And the other thing that I'm going to do, we're going to, and I didn't do this in the beginning, but I like to do it. I usually let it cook for a little bit first. Take a sharp knife, and right where this joint is, where the leg and the rest of the body, just give it a little bit of a cut there. That way this could get done, and we could see it looks really good there already. You hear, oh, you hear that crisp, and that's exactly what we want. But just give it a little cut. And I don't think I could take the temperature just so you could see, but I know it's not done. I could see a little bit of fleshiness, but we could take it just to make the point of where to check it and how to check it. So if you have your thermometer, this is just a standard one. Hopefully my batteries are working. There we go. Actually, they're not working today. Okay, so anyhow, if my batteries were working, you would insert it all the way to the bone and then pull out slightly. And that's exactly, okay, and I did get a reading there, 138, 123. So we know that I could see here too that it's still a little bit of red going on. Now, okay, let me get this back in the oven and we'll finish talking about that. Let's put it in the oven this way now too. All right, so let's skim a little bit more butter. What I wanted to say now is about the thermometer. Once you put a thermometer in there, you should always do this if it's especially if it was raw, but really it's a good practice to do it all the time. In addition to washing this with soapy water, you would also want to take an alcohol pad and just wipe it off before you insert this into something else again, because it will could possibly introduce bacteria from the uncooked food and put it into something. So say I took it out of here, it's not finished, there could be bacteria on here, and then I go to check the next piece of chicken, which is finished, that we're taking out of the oven. So now I just recontaminated that. So just a good practice to always wipe it off with an alcohol swab. It's just you could get the little squares at most stores, even order them online, but it's just nice to have around. So let's do our hollandaise. We need to get a little bit more butter here. Get my other ladle. Just gonna, and here, let me just show you so you could see. Typically, I just skim all of the off of here, off the white off the top. But what I'm just trying to do now is just get there we go. That's exactly what we want right there. We just want this. Right, let's see if we have 4 ounces, almost. And ideally, this should be warm when you're doing it. I feel like ours is nice and warm. So what we're going to do now is let's adjust the camera. I'll bring the blender over. We have our egg yolks and we have our lemon juice and we have red Tabasco sauce and we also have a little bit of Dijon mustard. So let's bring our blender over. Just take the lid off. And we're going to put our egg yolks in. And here, you see, it was just egg yolks, nothing, it just three of them just plopped right in. Three egg yolks. That's the ratio. We don't have a big amount that we're making right now. We're just making a small batch, but the ratio is 3 egg yolks to a half cup of butter, a tablespoon of lemon juice. Make sure that when you get that, there's no seeds in there for you. Just a dash of the, sometimes I like to do it too, like the dash. Sometimes I like to do it in a cup just in case for some reason it all, we didn't get what, it just squirted out too much. You could always add more, but you can't take it out when you're doing it something like that. The same with our Dijon. I just want a small amount. This, I just the size of a pea on here. And of course it stayed right there for me. Got it down in. This one, it's like a little less than a quarter teaspoon. So we have our butter. We're just going to blend these real quickly. All right, so it's come together enough. They're beat enough. Now I'm just going to open up this lid and we're just going to drizzle our butter in while we do this. Okay. Okay, so just a nice steady stream. Sorry, I couldn't talk there. And there we go. Nice and thick, perfect. You could always add a little bit more. You could always add a little bit of lemon juice, tiny bit, or just a tiny bit of Tabasco to it afterwards as well. Just have to be super careful. Let me see if I have a clear bowl here so you could see how beautiful this is. And here we go. Now, this is your just a basic hollandaise. Like I said, we could also, and it did not break. So if it was broke, a lot of times people say it broke, you would see like a separation of the oil and the butter and the egg yolk. But it's perfectly, it's a perfect emulsion. This is an emulsion sauce. Now, what we could do from here, yes, this is a great hollandaise for our, eggs Benedict, our hollandaise for our asparagus. But what we could also do too is if we could add a tarragon reduction. So if we add if this is one of the sauces that, it's one of the mother sauces. So you have this And then if we add other things to it, we could change it. So if we add a tarragon reduction to this, then we have a béarnaise sauce. So this is like another one of those foundation sauces. So if you could make a bechamel, there's so many more you could make out of that, right? Same with the other ones. Let's get this off my. Just give it a. Perfect. Perfect. Love it. Love it. Just the right amount of lemony. So you could see, let me just make sure you could see how beautiful that turned out. And that's a nice batch. This is, like I said, that was a half cup butter, 3 egg yolks. So this is a nice batch. This would probably do enough for, you know, I would say 4 eggs Benedict. We're just going to, let's show you what it looks like over our asparagus, and we'll dress our other things as well. We don't want to drown this. This is the process is just called, it's called napping. We just want to just a little drizzle on here. So let me see if I have a nice spoon. I used all my ladles. We just want to do like a little drizzle. You don't need, I mean, it is a rich sauce. We don't need a lot. And it's nice just to get that little taste whenever you're having some. So that just took our asparagus up a notch. And then we could always take our, gonna make a little lemon garnish. I don't have exactly what I wanted. So could still do this like a little lemon. Not perfect because that was my squeezed lemon, but just it's nice to show when you're doing your garnish, like, you know, thinking about what is in the food itself. We put a little bit of lemon juice on. Of course, there's lemon in the hollandaise. So that's just a quick and easy way to have a nice little side dish there. Okay, so there we go. I don't think we need anything else on this. That's done. So let me just set this aside. Let's bring we have our dressing here. And I'll just give that a little bit of a stir again. And this is beautiful. Give another spoon to drizzle this on. And what I like about too, like look, when you use the basil in there, again, we don't want to, there's a lot going on here as far as we don't want to drown this. We just want, how beautiful that is. Oh, that basil in there just really, well, the arugula pulls out the green. And you could also add, you know, goat cheese or feta to this as well. Just trying to keep it simple there. So we have that. We have our roast red skins, and we put a little bit of lemon and parsley and garlic on them. So those are done. And then we also have our roast chicken, which I will pull out. I don't know if it's quite done. I'm gonna have to change my battery, but for class purposes, we'll just give you a peek at what that looks like. Got to move my blender here. Not enough room on my little area. I don't have to tell you, it smells amazing over here. I wish you were here with me. I need to get the smell-o-vision. And again, it looks dark. It's just the herbs on top. It is definitely juicy and delicious underneath. You could hear the crispiness. So again, I hope you know, these are just simple versions, just so you're not intimidated to make a full-blown hollandaise. This one is perfectly delicious. And just a few simple ingredients come together to make a really beautiful meal. I mean, we had the chicken that might have to go in the oven for another few minutes. The arugula salad was very simple. The potatoes were very simple. Everything was pretty simple. So, if you are the one that is hosting, this is a great meal, an easy weeknight meal. Of course, maybe you wouldn't want to go to all the trouble for a hollandaise on a weekday, but certainly the asparagus and the potatoes and the chicken and a nice salad like that. And again, try to experiment with your salad dressings because they are so easy. And at least we know when we're preparing that at home, we know what's in them. And we could definitely add fresh herbs and some good things in there to nourish our body. And thank you again for coming today. I hope you enjoyed class, all of the recipes. And I'll have links for the other recipes in case you want to see the original version as well, or an alternate version. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful month of May and a wonderful spring, and stay on the path to wellness. Thank you so much and have a great day.